Okay, this is the second day of review for the Chapter 8 test. Starting off with question 31, it says, solve w minus 2 sevenths. If the whole thing equals 2/3, express your answer in simplest form. Again, you would do w minus 2 sevenths. You do the opposite, add 2 sevenths to both sides. Don't forget we have to have a common denominator when we add or subtract fractions. We end up with 20 over 21. Same thing here. We're going to subtract 3 and 3/5 from both sides. Find a common denominator, then I borrowed, and I ended up with 11/15. We would divide both sides by 11 on this one, so 4/7 divided by 11 is going to come out to 4/77. It says use the table to make a graph and write the equation. 0 to 0, 1 to 3, 2 to 6, 3 to 9, 4 to 12. The only one that works out is going to be C, and that's going to be y equals 3x. Represent the solution set for m is greater than 15, so all the numbers greater than 15, and remember that's got to be an open circle because it's not equal to 15, it's greater than 15. Same thing here, all the numbers less than 0.6, all the numbers from 0.6 down, but then it's got to be an open circle because it's less than 0.6, not equal to 0.6. All the numbers greater than or equal to -3, so we have a closed circle because it's including the number 3 because it's equal to and greater. Write an inequality for the situation. There are at least 62 children in the class. Always start with your variable or what you're working with. It says the number of children are greater than or equal to 62 because there's at least 62 of them in the class. Write an inequality for the situation. More than 31 binders are on the tray. Number of binders is greater than 31. Can't be equal to because it's more than 31. The time between a flash of lightning and the sound of its thunder can be used to estimate the distance from a lightning strike. The distance from the strike is the number of seconds between seeing the flash and hearing the thunder divided by 5. Suppose you are 13 miles away from the lightning strike. Write and solve an equation to find how many seconds there would be between the flash and the thunder. So we know that whatever the time is, divided by 5 is going to equal your distance. Then I started plugging in numbers. I knew that we were 13 miles away, so I put that into the D portion, which is our distance. Now I need to solve. So what's the opposite of dividing by 5? We multiply by 5. Multiply both sides by 5, and we get 65 seconds. So the answer here, I don't like that color. Choose red. Makes it stand out, is going to be C. A startup company's total investment in 2 years is $21,894. Write and solve an equation to find the investment for the second year if the first year's investment was $12,455. So we know that the first year, $12,455 plus a number is going to equal $21,894. Then we just go through the steps of algebra, which is whatever we do to one side, we got to do to the other, and we always do the opposite. So I subtracted 12,455 from both sides. 42, Josh's recorded rainfall data for 105 days so far. If this is 1/4 of the data needed for his science fair project, how many total days will he record? So that's really saying 105 divided by 1/4, which is the same as 105 times 4 equals 420. That's one way of looking at it. Other people do it this way. They say if 1/4 is 105, that means that we would have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 105, which equals 420, however you want to do it. Your class earned $90 Saturday afternoon by washing cars to raise money for the class trip. This is 1/3 of the money needed for the trip. What is the total needed? Again, you could divide by 1/3, or you could do 3 groups of 90. A male caribou sheds his antlers at the end of the year of the breeding season and grows new antlers every year. The antlers spread 25 inches last year and spread 26 inches this year. How many inches, and I can't read the rest, how many inches wider are his antlers this year than last year? Well, 26 minus 25 is going to be 1. That's it. The temperature in 2002 on the first day of summer was 78 degrees Fahrenheit. This is 6 degrees less than it was the first day of the previous summer. What is the temperature on the first day of summer in 2001? We have 78. The previous year is 6 more than that, so you get 84 overall. To join the school swim team, swimmers must be able to swim at least 500 yards without stopping. I represents the number, or what is that? Yeah, I'll let N represent, I'm just going to shrink this whole thing down. Let N represent something. The number of yards a swimmer can swim without stopping. Write an inequality describing which values of N will result in the swimmer making the team. Use a number line to represent the inequality. So as long as the swimmer is going more than 500 yards, actually is going at least 500 yards. So the one that shows at least 500 yards, this one includes 500 and is greater, therefore D is going to be the correct answer. Rhonda raised $405 for her softball team's fundraiser. She wants to raise at least $725. Write and solve an inequality to determine how much more Rhonda must raise to reach her goal. Let D represent the amount of money in dollars Rhonda must raise to reach her goal. Okay, so we know that the whole thing's going to have to be at least 725. So at least 725, at least 725. So they're all at least 725. We also know that Charity has $405. And we want it to be at least 725. So we know that 405 plus D, which is the amount that she must raise to reach her goal, is going to be greater than or equal to 725. And then if we look up here, the only one that really comes out to that is going to be B, and that's going to be 320. That one might be on your test, people. Solve the equation 6x equals 24. Show your work. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. Divide both sides by 6, and you get x equals 4. Write an equation for the function and explain what variables stand for. Riding your bike to the park takes 6 minutes less than walking. So B is the time it takes to ride your bike. W would be the time it takes to walk. So B equals walking minus 6, or walking equals B plus 6. Doesn't matter how you did it as long as you had one of those equations. Number 3, write an equation for the length, or for the following statement and state the dependent and independent variables. The length of a rectangle is 4 times the width. Express the length in terms of the width. Okay, this one is on your test. So the equation to represent the length of a rectangle is 4 times the width. So L equals 4 times W. The width is going to be the independent variable, because remember, that one's over here, and the L is going to be the dependent variable. And the reason why we know that is the independent variable has something being done to it, whereas the dependent variable depends on what happens to the independent variable. A student is taking a timed test. The student has 45 minutes or less to complete the test. Write and graph an inequality to represent the situation. What is the most whole number of minutes that a student can take to complete the test? An equation to represent the situation is y is less than or equal to 45, because don't forget the student can take at least 45 minutes, or at most 45 minutes to complete the test. And then the way you would graph that is you do 45, closed number, because we would include that 45, and down. The greatest number of minutes the student can take in the test is 45 minutes. Darcy has worked at a company for 2 years more than Jeff. Write an equation that gives the time Lucy has worked at a company in terms of the time Jeff has worked at the company. State the dependent and independent variables. make a graph of the values using your equation, graph the equation, and then the point 3.5 and 5.5 is on the line. Does it make sense in terms of the situation? It should technically say Darcy here, not Lucy. So, but continuing on. Let D represent or equal the number of years Darcy has worked at the company, and J the number of years Jeff has worked at the company. Darcy has worked at the company 2 more years than Jeff. So the equation is Jeff's, right here, plus 2 is going to equal Darcy. Okay, so J plus 2 is going to be Darcy. Then you can just graph it out, J, D. So 1 is going to be a 3, 2 is going to be a 4, 3 is going to be a 5, because it's always 2 more. So if you give Jeff 0 years, she's going to be there 2 years. Then we go down, and if you graphed it out correctly, yes, it means Darcy has worked at the company. Well, here's our graph first of all. Then it means that Darcy's at 5.5, so we go to 5.5, which is right about here. Actually, Darcy's at 5.5. It means that Jeff would be there. Okay, there we go. That's what you want to look at. I'm going to use one of these. If she's at 5.5, that means that he's at 3.5, and it comes out perfectly. All right, guys. I believe that's the last question. Hope this helps. Remember, you got a test coming up. Have a good one. Make sure to study. Bye.